No telescope sees it clearly, yet small frozen worlds at the edge of the solar system are moving the wrong way right now. They drift as if some giant thing is standing in the dark, just beyond the reach of sunlight. And the worst part is this: we may already feel its pull before we even know its name. And if you like real space mysteries that stay honest and still blow your mind, subscribe and stay with me. This story only gets stranger the closer science looks. Far beyond Neptune, past the bright worlds we know, there is a wide, cold region filled with old leftovers. These are chunks of ice, rock, and frozen gases, and many of them have been out there since the solar system formed. This place is called the Kuiper Belt, and you can think of it as a huge, dark freezer full of ancient debris. Pluto lives there, but Pluto is only one tiny member of a much bigger and weirder family. Most people hear belt and imagine a neat ring like something flat and simple around the sun. The truth is messier than that and much more eerie when you really picture it. The Kuiper Belt begins beyond Neptune and stretches outward into a region so large that distance almost stops feeling real. Sunlight there is weak, the objects are faint, and even very big things can hide for a very long time. That is why the outer solar system still feels a little unfinished, even now. We have mapped planets, moons, asteroids, and comets, but the far edge remains full of blanks. It is like having a map of your own house, while one whole room at the back stays locked and dark. And sometimes from under that door you notice a shadow move. This mystery did not begin with modern computers or giant new telescopes. More than a century ago, some astronomers thought another hidden world was tugging on Uranus. In 1915, Percival Lowell pushed the idea of a distant planet X, meaning an unknown planet, not the number 10. That early claim later fell apart because better measurement showed the problem with Uranus was not what people thought, but that old search still changed history in a strange way. It helped lead to Pluto's discovery in 1930 when Clyde Tombaugh found a tiny moving point in the sky. For a while, Pluto looked like the missing answer, the long-suspected world at the edge of the map. Then science learned more, Pluto got smaller in our understanding, and the mystery quietly returned. That is the setup people need before the modern part makes sense. Astronomers were not just hunting for a new planet because it sounded exciting. They were trying to explain motions, patterns, and odd behavior in places almost too far away to study. In science, hidden things are often found not by seeing them first, but by noticing what they do to everything around them. Now we come to the detail that changed the whole story. Scientists expected faraway icy objects beyond Neptune to point in many directions over time. That would be normal because after billions of years, random pushes should leave a mixed and messy pattern. Instead, some of the most distant objects seemed to be lined up like they had been arranged on purpose. In 2016, two Caltech astronomers, Konstantin Bedegen and Mike Brown, made that mystery impossible to ignore. They studied a group of very distant Kuiper Belt objects and asked a simple question: why do 6 of them follow long, stretched-out paths that point in nearly the same direction through space? The farther they looked into the pattern, the less it felt like luck. And the lineup was not the only strange part. Those same distant objects were also tilted in a similar way, about 30 degrees downward from the main planet plane. That means the paths were not just pointing together, they were leaning together too. Imagine finding 6 spinning tops across a football field, and every one of them is tipped the same way. Did you expect 6 distant worlds to act like that by chance? Tell me what your gut says in the comments, and if this already feels impossible, leave a like and subscribe. The deeper clue is still ahead. Bedegen and Brown offered a bold answer. Maybe the objects were not lining up by accident at all. Maybe a large unseen planet was using gravity, the invisible pull between masses, to herd them into that shape. They called this possible world Planet 9 because Pluto was no longer counted as the 9th major planet. NASA describes this hidden world as theoretical, which means it is a serious idea but not a confirmed discovery. No one has taken a clean picture of it, and no one has watched it move across the sky with certainty. What scientists have is evidence from patterns, not a direct sighting. That matters because science gets stronger when a claim survives doubt, not when it avoids it. Still, the numbers attached to Planet 9 are enough to make your skin crawl a little. The estimate says it could be about 5 to 10 times the mass of Earth. NASA also says it may be about 1.5 times Earth's size and on average 20 to 30 times farther from the sun than Neptune. And that would place it in a darkness so extreme that sunlight there is almost an afterthought. Neptune orbits about 2.8 billion miles from the sun on average. Caltech said Planet 9 might orbit about 20 times farther out than that. That is around 56 billion miles on average, though the path would likely be very stretched and not a neat circle. One trip around the sun could take between 10,000 and 20,000 Earth years. Pause on that for a second. When ancient humans were painting on cave walls, this object, if it exists, may not have finished even one tiny slice of its orbit. Every empire, every language, every city, every machine we ever built would fit inside a blink of its ear. That is not just far away, that is almost outside normal human thought. Here's why scientists took the idea seriously instead of laughing it out of the room. Their computer models showed that a massive hidden planet could keep those distant objects clustered over huge stretches of time. Without that gravitational shepherd, the objects should slowly spread out and lose the pattern. With it, the odd lineup starts to make sense. But then came the part many people remember most. The simulations did not only explain the strange objects already known, they also predicted that other Kuiper Belt objects should exist on paths tilted almost straight up and down compared with the planet plane. That is a wild prediction because it risks being proven wrong by the sky itself. And later astronomers did find objects that matched that weird forecast. Caltech said observers identified several objects tracing those nearly perpendicular paths. Mike Brown said they plotted the positions and found they matched the simulations exactly. That does not prove Planet 9 exists, but it does raise the pressure on every other explanation. If a hidden world can predict objects before we find them, how seriously should we take it? Drop your answer below, and if you like mysteries where the clues actually matter, hit subscribe before the trail gets colder, because the next twist makes this even bigger. NASA says a world like Planet 9 could explain more than one odd feature at once. It might help explain why some long-period Kuiper Belt objects are tilted by about 20 degrees compared with the main planet plane. It could also explain highly tilted bodies, retrograde objects moving the opposite way, and strange paths that cross Neptune's orbit. A good theory does not solve one puzzle, it starts connecting many of them. There is another reason this story grabbed scientists so hard around other stars. Planets a bit bigger than Earth but smaller than Neptune are very common. Our solar system seems oddly missing that kind of world near the major planet list we know. A hidden super-Earth in the far dark would make our system feel a little less unusual. That idea changes the emotional weight of the mystery. At first, this sounds like a spooky hunt for one lost object. But it is really about whether our picture of home is incomplete. If a giant planet can hide in our own solar system for this long, then our cosmic backyard is not nearly as familiar as we like to think. Now, the story shifts from old clues to what is happening now. Planet 9 has not been found, so the search has become a battle against distance, faint light, and time. Big telescopes like Keck and Subaru have been used to hunt through the dark. Even citizen scientists have joined by checking old space images through a project called Backyard Worlds Planet 9. And that project used images from NASA's WISE mission, later called NEO-WISE. WISE scanned the whole sky in infrared, which is light we cannot see with our eyes, but which can reveal cold objects. Its mission ended in July 2024, but the data still matters because hidden worlds leave traces inside old pictures. Sometimes discovery is not about new light, it is about seeing old light in a better way. And yet for all that effort, the planet still refuses to step into view. That is where fear slips in, not movie monster fear, but a colder kind. A thing this big should feel findable, and still it is not. When something enormous can stay hidden that long, the scale of space starts to feel hostile. But science is never only one team arguing one answer. Other researchers looked at the same outer darkness and asked whether the pattern might be fooling us. Maybe those distant objects only seem lined up because we have not found enough of them yet. Maybe the sample is too small, and maybe our telescopes are naturally better at spotting certain kinds of orbits. That criticism matters more than people think. If you only search some parts of the sky more often than others, your discoveries will come out uneven. And then a fake pattern can look real, not because nature made it, but because humans searched with bias. This is why astronomers keep saying the planet remains theoretical, even when the clues sound dramatic. Other ideas have also been proposed, and some are almost as unsettling as the planet itself. A ring of debris has been suggested as one possible cause of the odd motions. Some people even floated the idea of a tiny black hole, though that remains far more speculative and harder to support. When data is thin, strange explanations rush in to fill the dark spaces. But then another study added a fresh layer to the puzzle. Instead of focusing only on a few famous extreme objects, researchers studied a larger sample of more than 150 Kuiper Belt objects. They pulled orbit data from the JPL small body database and looked for a broader pattern in their average orbital plane. In simple words, they asked whether the whole outer crowd seemed slightly bent. What they found was strange in a different way. From about 50 to 80 times the Earth-Sun distance, the average plane looked normal, close to the inner solar system. But farther out, from about 80 to 200 times the Earth-Sun distance, the plane appeared warped. The team calculated only about a 4% chance that this signal was just noise. Would you trust a clue that comes from a whole group bending, not just a few famous objects lining up? Tell me which feels stronger to you, and if you enjoy clear science without fake hype like this, and subscribe, because now the mystery splits in two. That 2025 study did not point to the same exact monster described in the Planet 9 story. Instead, it hinted at a different hidden body, something the team called Planet Y. This would be a closer, lower mass object than the classic Planet 9 idea, though still far larger than Pluto. So the Kuiper Belt may be whispering about one hidden world, or maybe another, or maybe none at all. The estimate for Planet Y was broad, which means uncertain, but still startling. The study suggested an object between 25 and 450 times the mass of Pluto. Its orbit could sit around 100 to 200 times the Earth-Sun distance from the Sun, and that is closer than some Planet 9 estimates, yet still buried in one of the darkest regions of our system. Notice the repeating pattern here. Scientists expect outer objects to average out into something flat and calm. Instead, they see a bend, a warp, or a lineup that should not be there. Each time this happens, the same question returns: what invisible mass is teaching these small worlds how to move? Then came another blow, and this one did not make Planet 9 look stronger. A newly discussed object called 2023 KQ-14, found by the Subaru telescope in Hawaii, entered the argument. It belongs to a rare class called sednoids, which are objects that spend most of their time extremely far from the sun. More importantly, Neptune barely controls them, so their paths are useful clues. Here's the part that changes the mood. 2023 KQ14 comes as close as about 71 Earth-Sun distances and goes as far as about 433. That is a stretched, lonely orbit, but researchers say it appears stable. And if its path is stable, then a nearby giant planet may not be pulling on it much at all. In plain words, this is the problem. Scientists expected a hidden planet to leave fingerprints on the most distant objects, but some of the newest and most interesting objects look too calm. If Planet 9 exists, 2023 KQ14 suggests it may have to be even farther away, perhaps beyond 500 Earth-Sun distances. The suspect did not vanish, it may have just stepped deeper into the dark, and 2023 KQ14 is not alone. The 2026 report says this is the fourth known sednoid, and the others also show stable orbits, and that makes the classic Planet 9 idea harder, not easier, because the far objects are not all behaving like one nearby giant hand is twisting them. A theory that explains one cluster but struggles with new cases has to face the pain of growing evidence. Another distant object often enters this conversation too. 2017 OF201. It is thought to be about 700 kilometers across, which is roughly 435 miles, far smaller than Earth, but still large enough to matter out there. Its orbit is highly stretched and takes about 24,000 years to go around the sun. That kind of path can hint at ancient collisions, hidden gravity, or both. This is why the outer solar system feels less like a finished map and more like a crime scene. One object points one way, another refuses to cooperate, a third seems to back the old theory. And every new body is so far away that watching it for a short human lifetime tells only part of the story. We are trying to solve motions that unfold across tens of thousands of years. Did you think a new discovery would make the answer clearer by now? If this maze of clues has you hooked, leave a comment with your best guess and subscribe so you do not miss the next turn. Because the hardest part is not the theory, it is the hunt. People often ask a fair question. If Planet 9 is so large, why has no one just looked up and found it? The answer is not that astronomers are lazy or blind. The answer is that distance kills brightness, and a dark, cold world at the edge of the solar system gives off almost nothing. Even a giant planet can be hidden if it is far enough away, dim enough, and moving slowly enough. A nearby asteroid can look brighter than a huge distant planet simply because it catches more sunlight, and if that far planet crawls across the sky over years, it can blend into the background of fixed stars. Finding it is like spotting a drifting speck in a frozen ocean at midnight. There is also a cruel time problem. The further an object is, the longer its orbit and the smaller its motion from our point of view. You cannot just watch for one night and see the answer. Sometimes you compare pictures taken years apart and still get only the faintest hint of a shift. That is why future surveys matter so much. NASA pointed to the Rubin Observatory in northern Chile as a possible game changer for the search. The hope was simple: find many more Kuiper Belt objects, map their orbits better, and see whether the strange alignment survives stronger data. More objects mean less guessing and fewer accidents caused by small samples. This is the scientific heartbeat of the mystery, not we hope a giant planet is out there because that sounds cool. It is, we need enough evidence to know whether the odd motions are real structure or just a trick of limited vision. That may sound less dramatic, but honestly it is more exciting, because right now this is still unfinished. There may be a giant planet farther out than expected. There may be a smaller hidden body shaping only part of the belt, or the outer solar system may simply be teaching us how easy it is to fool ourselves when the data is thin and the distances are huge. Now step back and see why people call this terrifying. Not because the object is rushing toward Earth like a disaster movie. Nothing in the evidence says that. It is terrifying because it suggests that something massive may have been sitting in our own solar system while we built cities, split atoms, walked on the moon, and still did not know. That idea cuts deep. We like to imagine that the planets are counted, named, and settled like rooms in a house we know by heart. But the Kuiper Belt keeps hinting that our house has long hallways, hidden doors, and maybe a giant shape at the far end we still have not reached. The fear comes from scale, not attack. And yet there is beauty in that fear. A hidden world would mean the solar system is still alive with discovery. It would mean children in school today might grow up to see the day a new planet is truly confirmed. And it would mean the map in every classroom on Earth might one day gain a new name. There is a practical side too. A real Planet 9 or a real Planet Y would change how we think our system formed. Maybe a giant world formed close in and got thrown outward. Maybe it was captured from another star long ago. Maybe the outer system kept more of its early chaos than we ever guessed. Even if the planet never appears, the search is still worth it. The hunt forces better telescopes, cleaner methods, and a deeper record of the far dark. It teaches us where our blind spots are, and every frozen object we find becomes one more witness from the earliest days of the sun. So maybe the real terror is not a hidden planet. Maybe it is the thought that we can live inside a system this vast and still know so little about it. Maybe it is realizing that the edge of home is not a neat line, but a long, fading mystery. And maybe that is exactly why people keep looking. If you made it this far, I want to know what you think the Kuiper Belt is hiding. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and tell me in the comments whether you believe in Planet 9, Planet Y, or no hidden planet at all. And share this with someone who loves space mysteries that get stranger the more real they become. Thanks for watching, and thank you for staying curious.